Hello there once again, and welcome to Ask a Lawyer. We're back, and you are as well. Good to have you with us. Hopefully for the entire 30 minutes. John Scholes here, simply the host. On your screen momentarily will be employment lawyer Lior Samfiru from EmploymentLawyer.ca. Want to mention you can always reach out to Lior. In fact, you're encouraged to anytime with your questions. Phone call simple 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca is the email address. Lots to cover on the show over the next half hour. We'll get to some phone calls from one of our radio shows. That, by the way, you can join us for a complete hour, Sundays, 1 p.m. News Talk 1010 right here in the GTA. We'd love to have you on air for that. We'll get to those phone calls. We got a main topic, termination, quick Q&A, and then a little later on the show, our good pal James Fireman, who covers the disability side of the firm, he'll be joining us for a segment to talk about something very important as well. So stay tuned for all of it. It's all on the way. But Lior, we always start off every show, pal, with a week that was, case of the day, something you want to flavor the beginning of the show with, pal. Take it away. What do you got this week?
Hey, John, so great to be here to talk about employment law, to talk about this very important topic, and to help demystify the issues that I know all our viewers are dealing with. If you lost your job, if you're dealing with the bad boss, if your job has changed, your compensation has changed, what to do, what to say, how does the law help? We talk about that on every show because you have rights. You have things that you can do. There are things that the law can do to support you, to help you, to prevent your employer from doing the things that they're not allowed to do. There's so many options that you have. Too many people don't know what those options are. On this show, we'll talk about it. We also want to talk about another very important topic on this show. What happens if you can't work? What happens if your employer is giving you a hard time because of that? And also, what happens if the insurance company that's supposed to be paying you while you're off work decides not to or is not cooperating? We'll talk about that, of course. And beyond the 30 minutes of the show, so easy to reach me. You can call me, you can email. My team and I are ready to help you, and that contact information, you'll see it throughout the show. But let's start with a case that came across my desk, actually one that I resolved recently. This is a reminder about these very pesky fixed-term contracts. I spoke with a lady who had only worked for her employer for 2 months. She started working 2 months prior, but she signed a 2-year employment agreement. After 2 months of working, her employer said, you know what, things are not working out the way we wanted. We have to let you go. It's one of those, hey, it's not you, it's us type of deals. And they figured, well, she's only worked for us for 2 months. We don't have to pay her much by way of severance, if anything at all. Well, not so fast. She had signed a 2-year contract with them. And what's the rule? Well, the rule is with a fixed-term contract, if your employer terminates you before the end of the contract, they still have to pay you till the end of it. So she worked 2 months out of a 2-year contract. They had to pay her the balance of it. For her, that was over $150,000. That's what they owed her because they let her go before the end of the contract. There's a very important reminder there with anyone that may have signed a contract for a fixed period of time, 6 months, a year, 3 years, whatever that term is. If your employer lets you go before the end of that contract, chances are they still have to pay you that balance. So the usual severance rules may not apply. You may be owed even more severance than usual because of that fixed term contract. So whether you work for a short period of time or a long period of time, let's go back and see what that contract says. An important lesson there is no matter who you are, what you signed, what the terms of your employment are. If you lost your job, you have to call me.
And the same question I ask you every time you mention that fixed term quickly, Lior, what is the point? Does it give the employer some false sense of security at the end of 2 years? Why do they bother doing it if it costs so much?
You know, honestly, I try to figure that out myself. There really is no reason for an employer to have a fixed term contract. There really is no reason. An employer can have an indefinite employment duration with a termination term if they want, and that's it. An employer will invariably get into trouble like this employer did. But hey, for the employee, John, this was a great thing to the tune of $150,000.
Yeah, Merry Christmas indeed. Well, we'll move on. As I mentioned, phone calls from our radio show. Lior, phone call number 1 for this show is coming up. Have a listen, pal. Here it goes.
I'm their VP of Finance, have been there for 21 years. The company was acquired 4 years ago by a U.S. company, and they, at that time, signed me on to a new contract that was same pay. They want to severance me out. 12 months severance.
Okay, how do you handle that one?
Well, the first thing I want to point out here is if you're working for an American company, it doesn't matter. If you work in Canada, Canada's laws are going to apply to you Does not matter where the company is based out of. Doesn't even matter if you sign a contract that says the laws of the state of Washington are going to apply. Does not matter. The laws of the province that you work, in this case Ontario, are the laws that are going to apply. Now, the real question for him is, well, he's been there for 21 plus years in a very senior position. Is 12 months severance appropriate? Not even close. So we're going to do what we like to do, and we're going to use the severance calculator tool to find out how much he is really owed. You can do that yourself. You can find that calculator at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Let's use that right now and see what we have. So this guy is 56 years of age. He's lost his job after 21 years as a senior executive. Company says they're going to give you 12-month severance. Not so fast. You see it right on the screen. He is owed 24-month severance, 2 years pay. That's double what the company wanted to pay him. So he's been wrongfully dismissed. We're going to help him, but for you at home, that's how easily you can find out how much you're owed. Grab your smartphone, your tablet, your desktop, doesn't matter. Go to PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca, click on the severance calculator, and everything you need is right there.
All right, Lior, good stuff. We'll take a short break. As mentioned, the main topic every week, termination. Quick Q&A, that is on the other side as we continue more Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Stay with us.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Always reach out to Lior Samfiru, EmploymentLawyer.ca. How do you get a hold of him? Phone call right there, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Scan that QR code as well. As we always do, this part of the show, we always get into a main topic, always informative for you to learn something. Lior's going to break this down. Termination Q&A, a quick one. Lior, let's get right into this. First question, pal, is this. Two main types of termination. Why does it matter for severance? Break that down for me quick.
So as John, as you said, there are two types of termination and only two. The first one is what we call a termination for cause. Termination for cause simply means because you did something awful, you don't get severance. A termination for cause is reserved for the worst offenders. You can only be let go for cause if you did something terrible, something so bad that it's impossible to employ you. Okay, that's the first type of termination. The second type of termination is termination without cause. In other words, anything that's not cause is a without cause termination. It could be restructuring, cost cutting. You can be let go pretty much for any reason, as long, and this is the key, as long as severance is paid. That is the key. So your employer doesn't have to have a good reason, doesn't even have to necessarily give you a reason. But as long as severance is paid, in most cases, that is legal. So cause no severance if you did something awful. Otherwise, you have to be paid your full severance up to 24 months pay.
All right. Second termination question. I love this one, Lior. As you know, does the employer get to decide how much severance the employee gets? You're smiling already.
Absolutely not, because people believe that, hey, they're the employer. I guess they get to decide how much severance I get. Absolutely not. The employer has no say in that. The law comes in and makes that determination. The law decides how much you're owed. The law is going to consider a few factors, including your age, your position, the length of your employment, and is going to determine how much severance you're getting, which must, by the way, must include all components of your compensation, your salary, your bonus, your benefits, your car allowance. So the employer doesn't have that say. That's why if you're let go, it's up to you, the employee, to make sure that you got what you're owed. You can't rely on your employer. That's why you have to give us a call anytime you've been let go.
Got one more question for you, Lior. What does an employee do if they've been pressured to quit or resign, or if the job has been changed significantly? What's the first steps?
Yeah, those are different things, but things that come up very often. Certainly, if your employer wants you to resign, the answer should be no, I am not. If your employer wants to let you go, let them so you can get severance. The only thing that happens if you resign when you don't want to is you may not get severance. You may also not get EI. You don't want that. So if your employer tells you to resign, the answer is no, I'm going to continue working unless you stop me. Now, of course, if the terms of your employment change significantly, you may be able to force the termination. You may be able to say, no, I'm not accepting that. That's a constructive dismissal. I'm going to treat that as a termination and get severance. So that's the type of a termination that you, the employee, get to decide on if your employer changes terms of employment.
All right, Leo, we got time to get a phone call in here before the break. Again, reminder, join us on the radio weekly, Sundays, 1 p.m., our sister station News Talk 1010 right here in Toronto. You're encouraged to call the show every week as well. We do it for a complete hour. It's great, so tune into that this coming weekend. Leo, phone call number 2 for the show is coming up. Listen up, pal.
I actually got the double whammy the other day. I ended up with gout in my feet and passing kidney stones at the same time. Went to the doctor, went to the hospital. I ended up getting a medical certificate from both places. When I turned them into my work itself, they rejected them, saying that the information on there was vague.
What information was on there?
That I was off work due to a medical incident and I had attended their offices. They've actually issued me a fine for attendance because of this.
Wow. Wow.
John, when will employers learn? This is completely illegal. The employer doesn't get to reject a doctor's note. It's not up to them. They don't have any say in it. If you've provided your employer a doctor's note saying that you cannot work for medical reasons, that's it. That's really all that's needed. You can then be off as long as you need to, as long as you have your doctor's support, and there's no time limit on that. Your employer cannot demand to know what the condition is, what treatment you're getting, what the diagnosis is. That is all offside, nothing that your employer is allowed to demand. So what this person is describing potentially could be a human rights violation, could be a constructive dismissal. It's illegal. So if you can't work, get a doctor's note. You don't have to tell your information, your private medical condition. It needs to be clear about the fact that you cannot work. If there's an expected return to work date, it should say so. If there isn't, you can simply update your employer when you know more. And if your employer gives you a hard time, they don't cooperate, they demand more information, they treat you as having resigned, they do anything like that, you have to give me a call. I assure you, once they hear from me, they'll just back off right away.
Leo, what happens if they hit you with the old, oh, well, you've run out of sick days, you got to come back to work tomorrow, right?
John, the number of sick days has nothing to do with how long you can actually be off for medical reasons. The number of sick days only speaks to how many days your employer is going to pay you for while you're off. It has nothing to do with how long you can actually be off. You can be off for a week, a month, a year, more, if that's what you need to be, as long as you have your doctor's support. So you may have 3 paid sick days. That means you'll get paid for 3 sick days. For the rest of the days, you may not get paid. You may have to apply for EI or disability coverage, but you can still be off so long as you have your doctor's support.
Lots more to go here. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll switch lanes a little bit, get James Fireman from the disability side of the firm on to ask a few questions and talk a little bit, inform you as well. That's on the other side as we continue Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Stay with us.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
Alrighty, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer. Thank you so much for sticking through the break. John Scholes here. Momentarily on your screen, disability lawyer James Fireman from the firm will be here. Always reach out to James as well. There's that contact information, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at disabilityrights.ca. And again, scan that QR code for any other information to reach out. James, you've been here a 1,000 times, pal. It's good to have you back with us. I got to get to a question that just came in very shortly, but quickly, while you're here, and you also got something to talk about on your own time. What do you think?
For sure. Well, I'm really happy to be here, John. And one of the things that Lior likes to talk about is demystifying employment law. Well, we do the very same thing on the disability side. And one of the biggest misconceptions about disability law is that if you are disabled, if your doctors are telling you that you can't work, and you know that you can't work, but your disability insurance company says, sorry, you're not entitled to benefits, or you're no longer entitled to benefits, that they're going to be correct, that there's nothing that you can do about it. Well, guess what? There is something you can do about it, and it's actually very simple. You give us a call, and you can get a free consultation to find out what steps can be taken in order to challenge your insurer's decision. If your doctors are telling you that you're not able to return to work, then there is something that we can do about it. So I want to give you an example that was quite recent. So Dan called me about a year ago. He's a pipe fitter. He'd had a serious injury about 10, 15 years ago, but had a surgery and returned to work for several years. And eventually it just got worse over time and he had to go on medical leave. He simply wasn't able to do what is obviously a very physical job. And so he goes on disability leave. He gets approved for short-term disability, and then he gets approved for long-term disability for about a year and a half. And then his insurance company tells him, sorry, we actually think that you're able to go back to work now. Now, he's got a degenerative condition. That means it's getting worse over time, and that's not surprising given the type of injury that he'd had. And given the physical nature of his job, it was ridiculous for anyone to think that this guy was ever going to be able to return to work. And so his doctors were telling him, you can't go back to work, even though his insurance company is saying, sorry, we believe that you can. He appealed a couple of times, and of course his insurance company said, no, we're going to maintain our position, before he finally gave us a call, again, a free consultation. He retained us, and within 8 to 10 months, I think it was 9 months, we were at a mediation, and we got a very sizable settlement, over 6 figures, because quite obviously the insurance company recognized that if his treating doctors, if his specialists were all telling him that he's not able to return to work, that they weren't going to have any type of position if they ever wound up in front of a judge, which is why calling a lawyer brings so much more to the table, because the insurance company knows that as soon as there is litigation started, they can't act unreasonably anymore. They can't pretend as though what they say is going to be correct when they know that the doctors are telling you that you can't go back to work.
James, got a quick question here with your remaining time with us. And you mentioned the word appeal. That's kind of rolled into this question as well. And is it worth to appeal my long-term disability claim denial through the insurance company?
No, absolutely not. So you have to consider what the appeal is there for. And if you were to look at your insurance policy, your disability insurance policy, you would not find anything about the appeal. And that's because the insurance company has added that process in whenever they deny or terminate benefits. And the only reason they do that, you may think it's because they're trying to be fair or because they have to. Not at all. They're doing it because the one thing they don't want you to do is call a lawyer. Because as soon as you call a lawyer, it is removed from their control. They control the process when you apply for benefits. They control the process when they're adjudicating your benefits. And if you appeal, they continue to control the process. As soon as you call a lawyer and start litigation, they are no longer able to control everything and act unreasonably. And that's exactly what happened with Dan that I was just telling you about. As soon as he said, okay, I'm not going to keep appealing this. This is a waste of my time. Let's call a lawyer and find out what we can do. As soon as he did that, the process got rolling and we were able to get a really good resolution in less than a year.
And it can be more than one. They'll keep sending the appeals, waste more time, right?
I've seen several situations. I had one client that actually had appealed 7 times. Wow. The insurance companies love it if you appeal. All you're doing is you're wasting your time. And if you waste enough time, if you waste more than 2 years, you're not even going to be able to start litigation. After 2 years, there's nothing you can do about it. Don't waste your time with the appeal. Give us a call. It's a free consultation. All
right, lots more to go. Thanks, James. Good to see you, pal. We'll have you back again next week for sure. In the meantime, we'll get into a short break. Lior's jumping right back in, so stay with us. More Ask a Lawyer is on the way. We're coming right back.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
Welcome back. Ask a Lawyer here, CP24. A couple more minutes to go. Lior Samfiru is back with us. I want to give you his contact information right off the top here so you can remember that and write it down and use it. 1-855-821-5900 by phone. Back it up with an email, ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca, and scan that QR code as well. I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball at you for the last couple minutes of the show, Lior. We're actually going to get a phone call, our third phone call of the show, because we love him so much. Join us on the radio each week as well. We'll give you that information at the end of the show. But phone call number 3 is coming up right now. Let's listen up.
Hey, I'm actually calling for a friend. She worked for this company for a little over a year. They're downsizing. They no longer need her services. And because she was an independent contractor, she's not entitled to any severance. What's your take on that?
The old independent contractor.
Not so fast. There's an excellent chance that this person has been misclassified. In fact, they're an employee. That happens all the time. We see that all the time when someone believes that they're an independent contractor, but the law really considers them an employee. And that's important because an employee, you would get severance. very good chance this person is an employee. So they're owed severance even after a year. So we're going to go back and use our favorite tool, the severance calculator. You can find that at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Let's plug in the information and let's see what this person should be getting because they're probably an employee. After 1 year of employment at the age of 53, company doesn't think they're getting severance, except you see right there at the bottom, they're owed 3 to 6 months of severance. That's what the person is owed. Chances are with you at home as well. If you work for a company, if you have a regular job, you do your job, you come home, you go back the next day, you do the same thing, you are an employee, even if your employer calls you something else.
From none to 6 months, that's a big difference, Leor. They're going to need that money to hold over to find another job, right?
Happens all the time. That's what severance is for. Severance is there to help you, to carry you, to support you while you're looking for another job. It's not going to be immediate when you find another job. It's going to take some time. You need that severance to get you there.
Again, always starts with that phone call, Leor. Awesome stuff. Thank you as well for that phone call on the radio show. Always reach out to us as we're wrapping up for another half hour here. Here's the information to get a hold of Leor and his team one more time, including James Fireman, who covered the disability segment. Same phone number, 1-855-821-5900 for Leor. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca or just EmploymentLawyer.ca, the website we always go to. You wonder how Leor finds that severance calculator. It's free to you as well. PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca is how you get a hold of that. And join us on the radio show every week, Sundays, 1 p.m. here in the GTA for a complete hour on News Talk 1010. We'd love to have you along for that ride. We'll do it all again next week. Thank you so much for watching Ask a Lawyer. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.